In today's video, we are doing my makeup now at the age of 40, and we are comparing it to how I used to do my makeup 10 years ago when I was 30 years old. Now, a lot of things have changed in the beauty industry. Technology is getting better. I think there's so much education in beauty and makeup, and so it was only natural that my makeup was going to change over this last decade. But there's also some ways that I've had to change how I do my makeup just based on getting older. My skin is drier than ever. I have fine lines. I'm losing a lot of the volume in my face. My lips are getting thinner. Your nose gets bigger as you get older as well. The things that worked before just don't work now. So let's go through this process and kind of compare a little bit to how I used to do my makeup and how I've changed and all the tips and tricks in between. I have already done my skin prep, and to be honest, I don't really know what I did for skincare 10 years ago. I know that I was using SPF. In this particular photo, I can definitely tell that I was struggling with my melasma really badly. I don't really think I focused a lot on like hydration or maybe even eye cream and things like that. So those are things that are all really important to me now as I've gotten older. I'm happy to do a video if you'd like on some of the skincare that I do before I wear makeup, but just kind of getting into it, I already do have all my skincare on, including SPF. So what I do like to do though is start with a hydrating primer. This is the one from Milk Makeup. This is their Hydra Grip Primer. I've been using it for a while now. I absolutely love it. I do think it helps with the longevity of my makeup, and it does give me a nice hydrated base. While that primer kind of settles in, I will go in now with the RoC. This is the Multi-Correction Revive and Glow Eye Balm. As I've gotten older, my under eyes are incredibly dry. It feels like I just can't get enough hydration underneath my eyes. I used to apply it just directly on, but I found that it was tugging at my eye just a little bit too much, so I'm starting to use a brush instead. I'm looking at my brows now, and it seems like I wasn't doing a lot in terms of my brows. It looks like maybe I was just using a brow pencil, maybe a brow powder. I would say it's pretty similar to how I do my brows now. This is the Emco Beauty. This is their Brow Lemonade. I'm going to fill in my brows with a brow pencil. This one is from Baybrow. This is their B liner and ash brown. I think even looking at this photo, it's very evident that I didn't pay much attention to my brows. And even today, I feel like my brows are often something I kind of skimp out on. Like I mentioned earlier, at that time I was really starting to struggle pretty badly with melasma and a lot of like pigmentation on my face, so I was definitely wearing a more full coverage foundation. And as I've gotten older, I realized that that is something I cannot do anymore. Something that is really thick or heavy or full coverage honestly just ages me a lot. So I definitely lean towards skin tints, tinted moisturizers, just really light coverage products for the most part. So I'm going to use today, this is the Laura Mercier. This is their Tinted Moisturizer Natural Dewy. I am using the shade 3N Sand. And I just kind of go in, just like a little bit, mainly on the cheeks, forehead, tiny bit on the nose and chin. I'm going to use a foundation brush. This one is from Anisa Nickel Foundation Brush. It is just really fantastic for blending out foundation. I actually probably need to clean it. It just works so well. Really spreads the foundation nicely and evenly and just works really quickly. It's a little bit of a bigger brush, so when I'm in a hurry, that just kind of helps speed things up a little bit. Something as I've gotten older is, you know, my pores have gotten a little deeper and like more defined. I really want to use the brush to kind of get into those areas where the foundation isn't really going to naturally like seep into. You know, if the foundation kind of brushes over a pore that's a little bit more defined or deep, it's going to make that pore stand out even more. I really want to make sure that I'm kind of buffing that foundation into everything. I need a hand mirror now. My vision just isn't what it used to be. And even as a makeup artist for so many years, I'm right up in people's faces doing all the small details, but then I wasn't doing the same thing for myself. Like I have a mirror that's probably about 1.5 feet away. I just find that if I can use a mirror, I just get so much better of a result. Before I move on to concealer, a step that I really like to do is to take a beauty blender and some setting spray. This one is from Makeup by Mario. This is his Surreal Skin Soft Setting Spray. And I just kind of spray the beauty blender a little bit, just kind of make sure I rub in that moisture. And then I just like to tap over the skin. This is going to pick up any extra additional product, and it's also just going to give my skin some more longevity. For concealer, I can tell that I was using a pretty light concealer. It's not a really blinding white, but I will say it's just maybe a little lighter than I would prefer to use now. I'm going to use a concealer that's pretty close to the color of the rest of my skin. This is from Maxine's Revenge, and this is her French Face Concealer Concentrate. This concealer was specifically made for women over 40, I want to say, and it's really lightweight, but it has a really nice coverage. Just a few drops will do. I do have some areas that need concealing. I'm going to use the Luminous Silk Concealer from Armani, and I'm just going to start tapping a little bit right on the areas that I want concealed. It's time for my hand mirror. Just really going in right on those spots that need that coverage. I always like to let my concealer kind of set a little bit. It just makes it a little bit easier to blend that out, but still keep the coverage where I want it to be. The one thing I will do is add another layer of setting mist. For blending out my concealer, I do use a brush sometimes, but I just find it's much quicker to reach for a beauty blender or a sponge of some sort. I'm going to start underneath the eyes, and I'm just going to start tapping that concealer in and kind of spreading it out. And I'm really trying not to bring the concealer too high up. I'm really trying to focus in right in that like hollow I have. Now I can go in with the tip of the beauty blender and just kind of pat in that concealer that I applied to any areas that needed more coverage. Now that I've got all my concealer blended out and I'm happy with where my complexion is, I'm going to go in and start adding bronzer or contour. I was using a pretty gray or cool tone contour in that photo. I like to lean a little bit more warmer, so more bronzers, or kind of more of a neutral versus something really cool. Today what I'm going to use is the Westman Atelier. This is the Face Trace Contour Stick, and this is in the shade Biscuit. It's on the cooler side without being super gray. It has a little bit of warmth to it. So I just kind of blend this in along the side of my face like that. I really don't go too heavy with it. I do think that I was a little heavy with the contour back in the day, and I do like to take this up and just right on the temple just a little bit. I don't like to put too much contour or shadow right in here because this is an area that has definitely decreased in size as I've gotten older, but I do like to just try to take right from the edge of the eye here and really just lift straight up past that brow. That just kind of gives the face a little bit of a lift. Something I really never used to do when I was younger was add any kind of contour or bronzer to my nose, and I really like the way that it looked. But I do like to, my dog is dreaming. I like to go in with the contour stick, and I just like to tap it along the sides of the nose. So I'm not being super precise here. I just want a little bit of definition. Another thing that I didn't used to do that I do like doing now, and again, as we get older, our lips have a tendency to lose volume and get a little bit thinner. So I like to add a little bit of contour and shaping around the lip to try to make them look a little bit more full. This is the Milk Sculpt Stick in Stoked. It's so tiny and cute, and it's just like perfect for this. I'm just gonna go right around the lip line, a little bit over the top. You have to be careful doing the top lip because you can quickly look like you have like a little bit of a mustache, but a little bit of that definition just right on the lip line can just give a nice shadow and just make the lips look a little bit more full. I'm just gonna blend out that area to make sure there's not any harsh lines. Before I move on to powdering, there's a couple things that I like to do, and it's because I don't want to use too much powder. In this photo from 10 years ago, I was definitely using powder all over. And I don't think I had really oily skin back then. I've had pretty dry skin pretty much since like my mid-20s. Over powdering makes me look more aged, makes me look dry. It just doesn't do me any favors. First thing I'm going to do before I do anything else is do another layer of setting spray. I'm also going to take my sponge. I'm going to give a good amount of setting spray there on the tip, and we're going to blend out any creases that have started to form underneath the eyes. Just going to go in and tap those out. It's not really creasing that badly. I think that this new concealer that I'm using from Maxine's Revenge is really nice in that way that it doesn't crease really terribly like some other concealers that I've used. The last thing I'm going to do before I powder is a little trick that I've learned throughout my years of being a makeup artist. Now I take a makeup brush and I take the other end here and I'm going to roll it over any areas that get really kind of creasy for me. So now it is my nasolabial fold. So I just like to go in there, do a little smile, see where that product is going to try to build up in, and just roll the brush over that. I'm going to take this little domed brush. This is from BK Beauty. It's their 108. And for powder, I use the Danessa Myricks Evolution powder in pink. I'm going to take it on the top of the lid here, and I'm just going to get all that product kind of primed into my brush, and I'm going to tap off any excess. I'm going to just make sure that my under eye concealer is not creasing, and then we can go in and kind of lightly powder. Just kind of tapping it in. I'm going to get a little bit more product here, and we're going to do the nasolabial fold. So another trick that I've learned throughout my years of being a makeup artist is to puff out the cheeks, to puff out these lines. I'm not going to be able to speak when I do this, but you'll see. So we're going to be like a puffer fish. And then whatever's left, I'll just kind of do like the center of my forehead and my chin. Now you may notice that I didn't use any cream or liquid blush yet, and you're going to see why I do that in a moment. What we're gonna do now is go in with our powder blush. Now this is from Hourglass, and this is their Ambient Lighting Blush in Sublime Flush. It's this beautiful, vibrant, pink. It's definitely a cool pink. It has a little bit of like lavender in there, but it's so brightening. It's nice and luminous, but it's not glittery. I'm going to use this blush a lot higher than I used to. So I would definitely say that I used to keep my blush right here. I would say now I like to have my blush right on top of the cheekbones, almost underneath the eye, and really up towards the hairline. Now, blush definitely wasn't having the moment that it is now 10 years ago. I think blush was very understated. Brush, I'm using BK Beauty 107. This is such a great dual purpose brush. I'm going to use it for my bronzer as well. Now I'm going to use a powder bronzer. I really do have to set my outer edges of my face because I find that's the place that I have a tendency to kind of touch a little bit more often because I'm brushing my hair out of my face. Also because of the movement in my forehead and my fine lines. If I don't do that, the cream contour is going to settle into those fine lines and then make them look more defined. So we want to set it with a little bit of powder to make sure that that product isn't kind of moving and settling into those lines. I'm just pressing that bronzer right where I put that contour and a little bit more over, just over the forehead. And I go in a little bit right on the tip of the nose, and then just a tiny bit on the cheeks. I don't need a lot in this area. It's a very dry area of my face. Before I start moving on to my eyes, I'm going to give the face yet again another spritz of setting spray. I use a lot of setting spray. Another thing I think I used to skip when I was younger is any kind of eye primer or using more like cream shadows and things like that. I definitely just probably went in there with eyeshadow, just straight on the lid. So I do like to use more cream shadows most of the time, obviously set with a little bit of powder, but definitely more cream products. What I'm going to use today is a fluid eye paint About Face, and this is in their shade Capulets. Kind of create a little bit of shape with the eye, but it doesn't have to be perfect because obviously we're going to blend this out. I'm also going to take this underneath the eye. To blend that out, I'm taking a Morphe M453. It's just got some synthetic bristles, and I'm just going to blend that in and take it through the crease. I always bring it out a little bit up into that temple, just really kind of bringing out the eye shape. This is the BK Beauty 205, and I'm just gonna kind of buff that in to that lower lash line. On my eyes, I'm going to just use my bronzer. It's going to keep my look just looking nice and cohesive. It's the Haus Labs Power Sculpt Velvet Bronzer. This is medium level 6. I'm just going to take that through the crease to set that cream shadow that I placed on there on the bottom as well. This is BK Beauty 203. I used to love a black wing liner, nice and thick. As I've gotten older, I really steer clear of black liners. The only thing I would use a black liner for is if I was tight lining on the lash line. But what I'm going to use today is from MAC. This is their Costa Riche Eye Kohl. And I'm just going to take it on the outer edge of my eye. Just get it on there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be nice. This is a great pencil that I've been using for years in my professional kit. This is a brush from BK Nikki Rose collab. This is the N12. Just buff out that liner. I want it nice and soft. That's going to benefit me because, you know, my eyelids are a little crepey and crinkly now, and it is really hard to get a sharp liner now on my eyes. I really loved a good fake lash back then. I was probably using Ardell Demi Wispies. Now I definitely lean towards individuals if I am going for a little bit more of a dramatic look, but for the sake for today, for kind of more of an everyday look, I'm just gonna curl my lashes and do mascara. There's two things to note when it comes to mascara. I was wearing a lot of mascara on the bottom, which I don't like to do now. The other thing is that I definitely always used black mascara back then, and I started using brown mascara maybe a few years ago, and I absolutely love it. I do think there's still a place for black mascara, but for most everyday situations, I'm going to use a brown mascara. Now I'm using the one from Tower 28. This is their Make Waves mascara in Drift. It just goes on so well. I love the brush. It just coats the lashes nicely. Now I mentioned earlier that I didn't use any cream or liquid blush first, and I went straight in with powder blush, and that's because I like to go in with a cream blush after my powder. I have very dry skin, so my skin is going to start looking drier throughout the day, and it's going to lack some of that luminosity. I'm using this one, Nudestix in Nudies Bloom, and this is in the shade Poppy Girl. And I take it on a brush like this. This one is from IT Cosmetics. It's their Complexion Perfection number 7. I'm just going to tap it over the blush like that. This is super pigmented, so I don't usually need a ton. And I'm just going to lightly press that over the top of that blush and just kind of keep tapping to make sure that it's blended in. It just gives the skin such a nice glow. You don't want to rub. If you start to rub the product in, that's when you're going to start moving and disturbing everything underneath. But just using that light tapping motion. Now we're going to do my lips. In this photo, this is a very cool tone pink. It is very pink. I pretty much hate that color lipstick now. And honestly, I don't even think I'm using lip liner. But what I am going to use, and this is going to look a little scary at first, but this is the Milk Jelly tint. This is in the shade Chill. So this is supposed to be their red shade. This is a tint, as the name suggests. It really stains my lips so well. Now it's time to use some lip liner. So this one is actually from LYS, and this is their Speak Love Smooth Glide Lip Pencil in the shade Lavish. I'm just going to take that on the edge of the lip, and I'm also going to blend that in a little bit. This is a lip and cheek pencil from Nudestix once again in the shade Sunkissed. I'm going to go over the whole lip now. The most important step, I feel like, other than setting spray, is some kind of lip hydration. My lips are incredibly dry, so finding a hydrating lip gloss or lip oil is really important for me. From Summer Fridays, this is their Dream Lip Oil, and this is shade Warm Beige, and I'm just going to pop that over the top. There there you have it. This is how I do my makeup now as someone who is almost 40 versus how I did my makeup when I was 30. Obviously, makeup trends change. How we do our makeup evolves over time. The technology in makeup has gotten better. It's natural that my makeup was going to change, but it was also really important that my makeup changed as well as I got older to, kind of accommodate for my changing skin and just the aging process in general. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear any tips that you have that are working for you. How has your makeup changed over the last decade and what things work for you? I'm really curious about this because I think everybody has their little tips and tricks. This was so fun to do and I hope you enjoyed this video as well. If you have any ideas on future videos or things you want to see or questions you have for me, please leave them in the comments. Also, I'll have new videos coming out weekly, so I would be happy if you would subscribe and join along in this journey.